Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm here today with Stephen J. McCaffrey. We're here to just talk about being fatherless does not mean you have to be a failure, because so many people really think because they don't have a father that they have to fail. But Steve is a perfect example that that's not true, which also means just because you have a father don't mean you're going to be a success either. So, and we're here today to discuss that. Steve is the owner and CEO of Metro Public Insurance Adjusters Incorporated. I am also one of the franchise people in this corporation. I've known Steve over 14 years now. He's my mentor, my friend, and I'm here today just to share some things with you. Seems like I'm doing all the talking right now. So I'm doing the introduction. I'm always introducing though. So without, I got a question I'm gonna ask him so he can really get into details. Steve, because my audience out there don't know who you is, but you do. Who is Steve J. McCaffrey?
That's a great question. So thank you. And you and I have been friends for a long time. I definitely consider you a friend, and you've never been short on words. So I'd be surprised when I'm doing all the talking, but I'll do my best. So when anybody gets asked that question, it could be sometimes like you have to sit and think about who you are, right? So and who you're most and what you're most proud of, I think, in life, especially as you go through life. And I'm married to Danielle. We've been married for 25 years now, and we have 5 children. And I got a late start in life. That's one of the things that we were talking about. Like, so I don't know why. I didn't get married till 35, and then my first kid at 39. And I'm fortunate to always have kind of a little bit of a drive to want to do something, in business. And been fortunate and blessed to be able to start a company in 1994 with several people that came along with us, and that's why we're here today. With Metro Public Adjustment still operating, and we have a subsidiary company that we brought on to complement our businesses. So, I pride myself on just being a decent person and having friends. It's I can definitely look back in life and think, well, I should have done something a little bit better. And I always, and I'm fortunate to have the ability to look forward and not dwell on the past. Right. Our lives can haunt us if we dwell on the past. But I can reflect back and say, I remember when I didn't treat that person right. There was this one friend of my sister's, and people teased her because she wasn't the most attractive person. And I remember joining in on that. And later on in life, you're like, why was I? That was mean. And you just, you look, I mean, I didn't have a lot of those moments, but, I always had more, I don't know where I get this from exactly. I probably have some ideas, but I'm a more compassionate person. And, I will occasionally, you won't see me, I'll hide it pretty well, cry in a good movie because it's.
I remember you crying one time, and
like we're watching on Christmas Day, which was yesterday. In this, from time perspective, it's a wonderful life, and it's just and the stories, it brings tears to your eyes, like thinking of how life could be and how important that we are in the world with the people that we connect with, and that's how the story was written, but it's true, right? Like I think we can always think back, like, well, if this happened differently, that happened differently, and so that's Steve McCaffrey. That's part of me. So
now, before we go any further, I want to say this to the audience out there. Steve is, like he said, he's a very compassionate person, caring person. He's a person that really want to help people. I can tell you I can't even begin to tell you how many times he's helped me. So many times you probably don't forgot about some, but I can count every single one of them. And now, because you're in this position as an owner, CEO, and all that, and a lot of people think you have to be a great singer, a sports star, and all that. Were you any of those things, or no?
I didn't produce a record. I probably would have been a better athlete if I had more guidance when I was younger, because I'm not a bad athlete. My kids seem to be better athletes than I I was growing up. Yeah, so nothing special.
Right. Okay. What event happened in your life that made you miss having a father, if anything? It don't necessarily have to be that.
Well, and that's the an interesting part of our conversation is that my parents were divorced, and let's put this perspective in the time frame before I was born. Now, I was born in 1962, so it was pretty much unheard of to be divorced back then.
Right.
And so, but my mother got pregnant, and then the divorce happened before I was even born. And so, as a baby, I wasn't cuddled by a father, but he was a good man, I guess, but he didn't spend any time with me. And I say I guess because I don't know.
Right.
And that's and I'll give you more of that story, but I didn't know what it was like to have a father and I didn't miss one because I didn't have one.
Right.
And which was interesting. Like if you had a father that were pulled out of your life, that could be more traumatic, I think,
right.
than other things. But I did, have good women around me. I had 3 older sisters and a mother and I watched her struggle. And you know that from just the stories at Metro. Like in the 60s, it wasn't easy.
Plus, remember, I knew your mother.
Yeah. It wasn't easy to rent a house. And they want, where's the man? Where's the man of the house?
Right,
especially in the 60s. And so, and she managed. So I watched her raise us, and so that was kind of filled that gap. It wasn't until later in life that I realized that I was following friends. Like I was, and I that's where pivotal life is important. In life we go through, and I kind of got lucky that I didn't get with the wrong crowd because I was impressionable. Like I was more of a follower, very much more of a follower back then. And luckily I had some nerdy friends at the time, and we did kid stuff, but we didn't, even as teenagers, we didn't get in a lot of drinking and no drugs. So, and that's fortunate because it was around us. It was always, no matter where you come from, how much money you have, how much money you don't have.
Right.
There's drugs out there, and I think had I had a friend that said, "Hey, try this," I was that kid that would have tried it. So, I'm kind of fortunate that I didn't. And so, I had a grandfather that would take us. And I told this to my grandparents were divorced, which is and that was really weird because back then you never.
Not the grandparents, no.
And
till death.
And he never spoke a mean word about my grandmother. He was always, a very gentle person. So I had a little bit of a father figure with him. Not as much as I remember, but he was around somewhat. And you just you go through life and just you don't necessarily realize something's missing. And I just remember my drive came from we grew up in Port Richmond, Philadelphia, which was just a working class blue collar neighborhood. A lot of firemen and police officers and union people, and but it was on the poor side, and I remember feeling like we were the poor family in the poor area.
Right.
Okay, so, and it wasn't horrible, but it was to my mother's credit, we always had a holiday, and there was always a birthday cake at your birthday. There was always at Christmas time there was decorations and there was some she managed to buy presents and then even on George Washington's birthday holiday there was cherries for Charlie. Right. Just come up with celebrate each holiday. So as a kid you just that's your life, and that was pretty cool. But I always remember thinking I want to continue to I wanted to do something better in life, and I think that drive comes internally for some people, and some people they get it later. It does, whenever it happens is fine. You just I wasn't one to feel like just palling around doing nothing. I don't know where that personality comes from, but it wasn't from a father figure, and that's an important part here. Like, there's some really, and one of the things that and we'll never stop learning. So if I can make a couple impressions today, there's an old saying: when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Right.
Because there's lessons all around us all the time, and we don't realize that we're not listening.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like somebody says something. In fact, even sometimes a lot of times your parent you'll hear something from a friend of yours, and your parent or somebody say, I've been telling you that for years, and you didn't hear it. So, and I don't even know where I was going with that. When the teacher is ready, the student will appear. So, there's a lot of lessons in life that you'll reflect back on. We'll have to edit this one out because I can't remember. I lost my train of thought.
No. We're going to keep that in. We want this to be as real as possible. Listen, and for those of you who wonder, say, well, why are they doing this video? I talked to Steve about this a while ago because I'm a big brother. I do mentoring at my church. I worked in the prison system, juvenile justice system, to work with younger people. I've been teaching Sunday school for younger people since I've come to know the Lord. So my heart is for younger people and to prevent them from going the wrong way. And a lot of times I work with people children that don't have fathers. And a lot of times they want to blame the fact that they didn't have a father on their reason for their failure. But I'm sitting here with somebody who wasn't raised by his father, who's had a great deal of success. And I also want people to understand that you don't have to be this sports figure, great singer. You could just use your mind to get where you want to go. And with that being said, let me ask this. Were you the best student in school?
No, definitely not the best student in school. So I'll come back to that. I kind of remember where I was going with the lesson. It's like in life, there's
that's tied to the student.
There's a lot of people around us that we can follow and listen to. It's just there's that time of our life that we're not sure. We don't hear that message. So as a student, I was not a good student at all. In fact, I flunked the 4th grade. But I remember my mother in 1st grade. I didn't go to kindergarten because kindergarten wasn't included. And I went to Catholic school all my undergrad years. And so in 1st grade, I'd come home and I had on my sleeves it'd be all dirt. And my mom was talking to the teachers. I said, why is his sleeves all dirty? And I would, as a little kid, would crawl under the desk from my 3rd or 4th seat to the front of the room while the teacher's teaching. And I was one of those students that I would get lost in the beginning of the year, and it was like one of those commercials, like wah 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 wah. Like I was lost most of the year, right. And then I flunked the 4th grade, and then we moved, so that was good. And then it's just to Port Richmond. Went from Kensington to Port Richmond, and I still was struggling. Then I got into high school, and I didn't do well my freshman year. And then for some reason, I had Father Aschenbrenner. In fact, he married us. I asked him to marry us in church when we got married, and he was teaching geometry, and he's a funny priest, and all of a sudden it was one of those subjects that came easy for me, and it was the first time I actually got a 90 on a test, and it was all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, and I just started applying myself, One of his famous lines in the class, we'd be taking the test, and he would be looking at us taking the test, and he'd say, "I'll check the other papers, please." But it wasn't. I didn't need it. I was like, all of a sudden I could understand the subject and be good at it. So, and then I'd visit my mother. She was working, and she always would encourage me, being proud of me because whatever I was doing. And I just kind of worked my way back up to academically to all of a sudden get second honors, and I was in cross country in high school because I was able to it's an easy. Everybody makes the cross country teams. Although I was.
This guy did the Ironman competition a couple of times now, and he wasn't no spring chicken.
Slow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was able to. I got through high school, and then I'm like, I wanted to go to college because nobody ever went to college in my family. So, why wouldn't I pick one of the best schools I can go out to? So I applied to Penn State. Of course, I get rejected. Why did I get rejected? Because I had a 690 on my SATs, and I didn't have a good freshman year, so I wasn't showing. I didn't have good grades, and I got a little bit better in the SATs, but it didn't help me get into Penn State. And so, but then I did a little research, and I found if you can go to night school part time, and you get a B at least in those classes, then they will automatically accept you into the college. So I got into Penn State, not through a loophole, just by just taking a different path. So, and that's just always ask the question. If you can do one thing in life, always ask the question why and how. Is there a way to do that? Like, sometimes it comes down to, even in business, like, well, we have this challenge. Like, what's the answer? And you don't necessarily have the answer, so you just say, all right, you just keep thinking about it. And we teach this, and this goes across the board in all aspects of life. If you have a problem or a situation you want to come up with an answer for, and you talk to someone else about it, as soon as you start asking the question, there's like a third person that it's like magical. They kind of like the person asking the question, like yourself, be like, oh my God, now I get it. I just remembered, or I thought of an answer just by asking you the question without even saying anything. So that's in life on personal, that's in life and business. So, definitely an important
You literally answered my other question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What made you realize you was destined for something better?
That's a good question. I just always wanted to be something. How do you define success? I always wanted to be successful. Kind of like I grew up watching the Beverly Hillbillies.
Right.
So.
We all did.
Jake Clayman shoots the ground and oil started. So I was hoping to strike an oil well, and. So you see that, TV brings us, what the better half of life. Today, whatever economic background you have or country you live in, you can see somebody doing better than you.
Right.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Just remember what I was going to say. This is a very, very important lesson that I had to learn only recently. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Right.
It's the thief of joy. And I've heard this. Art Williams, one of my mentors, who started Prime America, A.O. Williams became Prime America. He said, do not compare yourself to other people because there's always somebody bigger and better.
Right.
And whether it's better looking, more athletic, who has a better girlfriend, a better wife, the better family. Like there's always somebody that you could look around and, well, I wish I had that. And it's taking a step back and just realizing that you're blessed, in your own life for what you have. And then, I have 5 children, as I said, so, they're still on the younger side. And I pray for them that their spouses are ambitious.
Right.
They're good people, right? But ambitious, not somebody that's going to sit around and not want to, to do something better for themselves. Even if they never get anywhere, but they keep trying, and that's, I think, is it Michael Jordan said, you can't hit the basket you don't take. So, or you can't shoot, you can't hit the bat you don't swing at. So, and that's not just a cliche. That's life, right?
Right.
You don't go try something, and I remember the cartoon robots. I want to capture this one section because there's the robots there. Goes, and he says, "Never try, never fail." And it's a capture. And it's a comedy movie.
Right,
it's a cartoon.
Right.
But I'm like, but that's what life is about. Like, and there's a lot of people that just don't try because they're afraid. They just don't think of it. Whatever, it's not that they're not good people.
Right,
it's
right.
Just so, and that's not just about money. It's about, family. It's about friendship. It's whatever. And I say all this, and I can tell you, I'm not saying that I'm not a perfect. I'm far from a perfect person. I can look back and mistakes I made and where I wasn't the nicest person. And I could be more generous and and different things that you can always self-critique yourself, and you should, so that's one of the things Art Williams used to say, like I'm no perfect person, because he always talked about God, family, and business.
Right.
But you're a preacher, but as you know, right?
Yeah. And that's why we do a kind of reverse. When you start thinking more highly of yourself than you ought to, compare yourself to Jesus and see where you come up.
Exactly.
You can find out Spain and all that. I'm going to stop him right here because I want him to tell you something that he hasn't told you yet. What's your wife and children's names?
Oh, I was Danielle's my wife. Then my oldest is Jenna, and then Ryan and Taylor, they're twins, and then Chase and Dylan.
Right.
And the dog is Zero.
Yeah, Zero. I just met him today.
And he's named after the character in Nightmare Before Christmas. That's not...
What happened in your college that helped you get where you are today?
In college,
I can tell you, but you'll figure it out. This is on your shirt.
oh. Well, so I'm going to segue to that with a story about college. So, some people say, and now today, especially with the cost of college, which I'm not happy about, but is college important? Well, education is important, and that's the bottom line.
Right.
And so, two of my nephews, they started in college, and it wasn't for them. They went on, and now they're both one's in the electrical union, the other one's trying to get into the electrical union, which is a form of education. And but education itself, like my goal was to get a bachelor's degree. That was my goal. So I just kept, it took me 6.5 years through college. That's another story. But I finally got a bachelor's degree. Now, am I using that bachelor's degree for what I do now? No, exactly. But where I do use it is us talking today. Is a conversation you're going to have with your boss. Is a
right.
situation you're going to be thinking about. So, as a skill of life that we get more and more as we learn more and more things, it's deductive reasoning, to be able to look at something and figure out what the solution is. Like, I can never be a doctor or a chemist. Like, I don't have that kind of skill set, but there's an approach to everything. So fortunately, in life we have points that we look back on and say, oh, this has got me where I am today. So and I can't believe I tell this story for every single week.
And I teed it up for you there.
So you don't remember everything. So my parents at the time, so my mom got remarried, and they and that's a little bit of the story. I'll just touch on. I did not get along with my stepfather, although I put my mom and my stepfather together when I was 10. They met through me because I was doing deliveries for food, and then as a teenager, having a stepfather, was and he was a beautiful man, but I was not the easiest teenager at the time. So, and I was, I regret some of the way the conversations we had. But again, he was a great man. But I say that because sometimes it's hard for I didn't have a father figure, and then all of a sudden a stepfather comes in who was a nice person, but I didn't get along with him.
Right.
For him parenting me. I got along with him as a person, and loved the man dearly. But so they had a claim at their house that they had damaged their house, and they were referred to a public adjuster. Well, we never heard of a public adjuster, and public adjuster came out, looked at their damage, and looked at their policy, and came back to the kitchen table with a cup of coffee probably, and said, you don't have coverage for this plumbing loss that you have. It's just the wrong type of policy. So then he said, listen, go out. I don't know if he wrote on a piece of paper. Go back to your agent, ask them for an HO3, which stands for homeowner's 3 policy. And they did. And they had no problem getting it, as you know how the story goes. And they got a better policy that cost less money, that covered more things. And, why would anybody buy something for more money that covered less things? Like,
right.
If you want the best, product for your money. And then I did a little research and found out that no matter which state someone lived in, that they're entitled to the same offering of insurance. Insurance companies would use a practice called red line. That's where back in the day when we had paper maps, they would take and draw a red line around there and say, don't sell insurance in this area. And that's illegal. It's discriminatory. So, I would tell my friends and family, look, get your policy checked out, but it's public adjuster, and maybe you have, damage in your home that can be paid for, and that's how I kind of got into the business, because I would just refer, as most people would do, like, you got a good product, like you go to Starbucks. Oh, you should go to Starbucks. They have great coffee.
Right.
Or we're in Philadelphia, so we'll say, or free coffee Tuesday at Wawa, right?
Right.
Go to Wawa. See, what do? You tell your friends, don't forget to go to get your coffee today, right? They'll take care about you getting gas and ordering a sandwich.
Right.
So, and that's what I was doing. And then one day the public adjuster came up to me and said, I can pay for these referrals. He said to get a license. Make a long story short, he helped us get the license, studied for that, took it, passed it, and I got into the business, not as a career yet, because I didn't know where it would go, because that company didn't really have a career path.
Right.
that they were offering.
And you were still in college at this time.
Still in college, so it was great because I didn't have to work a full-time job. Well, I didn't have to work any job because I did that. I would get claims and then make some money on the side doing that. And I was also in the Air National Guard, and so make a few dollars there. So I was able to get through college and work a part-time job.
Right.
So and then eventually graduated. And then I didn't go right into that business because it didn't have any career path. But then I started doing some other types of jobs. It's like in life, you graduate from college and hopefully you got a major that you like, and maybe you don't, and you find a different path, and that's normal. So for anyone listening today, realize that you don't always figure things out exactly. Some people, if you're going to be a doctor, you got to go to start medical school, and hopefully you love that because you have to go through all that education. But for most of us, we could try different things and take different paths. So eventually, I ran into one of the guys that worked there and helped him start his company, ran the adjustment company. And then I realized no one's really opening up the opportunity for people. So that's how Metro Public Adjustment started with a plan to build a business.
And how many years ago was this?
1994. So 29 years.
29 years.
Yes.
Still kicking.
Making me feel old.
Now, because this is almost time for us to close this out, I want to ask him one more question, or two more, but this one is very important because we were talking about he was in college when he got inducted into doing this, and through that he became very successful. You have since then has instituted a program that would help college students in college pay for their education. Could you tell the audience?
Yeah, well, they could do the same thing as I did, but what we did is we created a program. It's called the College Work Program because, number one, we're looking for people that have a drive and want to be entrepreneurs. And in colleges, where most entrepreneurs
can you hold on my
start.
calls?
Because
I'm in with a kid.
when you think about it, you graduate
Very
high school
important person.
and
VIP.
and you're like, maybe you're on the football team, or
All right, thanks.
all you can see is greener pastures. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to go to college, you're like, oh, I'm going to get out of college, and you're going to set the world on fire, right? And then you get a job. Next thing you know, you get a car, and you can maybe get married, you have a kid. All of a sudden, those dreams you had catches up. So. Well, you're in college, you're entrepreneurial. So we like to get people and give them an opportunity while they're in college to make some extra money, and also to experience being an entrepreneur, because this is a great business. I mean, and you've been in business 14 years, and an hour's worth of time, you're making a good amount of money. So
right.
When you're new, you're a little nervous. So we created a program where your trainer will be there every step of the way, teach you the business. And we have where you can earn up to an additional $3,000 in scholarship money towards college, plus another potential $3,000 from income. So it's and then you can continue on after that and make money. So it's that's a 4-month program. It's called the College Work Program.
Now, remember, you heard it here first. I'm not going to ask this question. And I wanted to ask him that because you see the succession of how it happened. He was not the best student in school. There was no father in his life, but he still overcame all the obstacles and became very successful. Matter of fact, he's acquired another business, which I'll leave that up to him if he want to discuss that or not. But here's the thing. And since that time, not only has he become successful in business, he becomes successful in marriage. He got 5 beautiful kids. I know them all. I watched them grow up from here to here, especially at the company picnics. His wife with him almost everywhere they go together. So, and like I said, I'm a big brother mentoring program. And Tara and her family and Kim Cody were the ones that helped me through that process. They were the caseworkers. And through them, I got to help a lot of kids through the process. You have to understand something. Steve Hart is to help people. That's why he is successful. It's not being the most brightest, not saying he's not, he is. But that heart to help people will help you overcome a lot of things, which is why I love this business, because as you can tell, because the work I do with children, I love helping people. there's nothing greater than helping somebody and seeing the light come on. And I just enjoyed my time here with you today, Steve. Is there anything you want to say to the public before we sign off here?
I mean, your message is very, very important, you know, and I'm not the brightest bulb in the bunch. And, you know, so you look at, just always realize that there's a great word that, you know, the word hope, you know, and you know, in watching that movie, It's a Great Life.
Right.
You know, the Clarence, the guardian angel that's part of the movie, comes down and he says, you know, is he dying? He goes, no, it's worse. He's lost encouragement, you know, and he wants to kill himself. So, you know, there's God put us on this earth, and you know, we weren't all born into great, you know, to wealthy families. For most of us aren't.
Right.
But there's tremendous opportunity around us. But on top of that, there's, you know, it's just the willingness to press on, and the willingness to always look and say, you know what, I can do this. And if you're watching this video, you should be proud of yourself, because you can do what's in your heart, and that's one thing that we can't measure. You know, the heart of a champion. There's no test for that. But you know inside yourself that you were meant for better things, as God put us on this earth. And I want to be clear. I am not a super religious person, but I do like to pray in the mornings. It clears my head. It gives me a thought process for the day. And then I ask forgiveness for if I have any sins that I need to ask forgiveness for. But also, it's you pray for the people that are in your life, and you just pray you have your best day forward, and if you look at each day and work and build on that, like that's one of even a success principle. It's so often we look out and say, oh, that's such a big task, I don't think I can do that. You just start, and you figure it out, and you just take each day, you take another step, and before you know it, you should have some kind of vision or goal, but that doesn't need to be perfect. That can change. So if you're in a situation where some of this is resonating with you, then we've achieved something today,
right.
And we're blessed to be able to do that. So I love Akay, as he knows, he's one of my favorite people. And,
I still ain't figured why he likes me so much.
So. But yeah. Thank you.
And I'm gonna say this: Steve is absolutely correct. If you trust God, if you dream a dream so big that you can't do it, and it comes to pass, you didn't do it. God did it, and you will trust Him even more. And Steve said he's not a very religious person, but I can tell you one thing he prayed for. He's still glad about when he prayed for Danielle and got her.
Well, that's actually a true story. I shared her with that. I shared that with Danielle, my wife, at pre-Cana, which is a step that we go through in the Catholic religion. That I actually, and maybe it's a little selfish in there, I prayed for a petite Italian, dark-haired, curly girl. If you've seen Danielle, your prayers were answered. And on top of that, she's a fantastic woman, which is hard to find sometimes. So, well. They're out there.
And she does have her own mind, too. Thank you, everybody, for joining in with us today. We look forward to sending this out to everybody. Hope you enjoy. If you find this information valuable, you will see a link tree there that you can click on it to see if there's a way that when you need help from us, we can help you. If you need to call us for any reason, you'll see the phone numbers, and all that will be there for you also. We look forward to hearing from you. Leave a comment. Like the button, hit subscribe so that we could send you more important information, because I'm quite sure this will not be the last one we do together. Have a blessed day. May God bless you. May God keep you. May God watch over you. Bye.